Good afternoon, students. So, welcome to the 12th lecture of this course, Management of Information Systems. And this is the final year course for BEIT, Information Technology. And uh, we are here with the third unit of our MIS course, which deals with the security, ethics, and other related uh, issues, threats, vulnerability, and other things. So, in the last lecture, we have discussed the definition of what is information security, what is the need of that, then what are the possible scenarios where the information security is compromised, why management should look into this information security for as a part of their corporate policies or day-to-day activities. It is equally important and it should not be, we can say, neglected. Then there were we have discussed the three principles of information security. What are the three principles? So these three principles are confidentiality, then integrity, and third is the availability. So we have this was the previous what you can say session discussions. Now we'll continue with one aspect, and that is the information security policy, and then later on we'll discuss the threats, vulnerability, and risk and their relation, and what are the what you can say considerable or significant threats, then what are the vulnerabilities, then how this they manifest themselves into risk, then what is the methodology for risk assessment, risk management, threat matrix, that we'll see. Yes, so students, welcome. You can put your name into the comment box for the attendance purpose. And if you have any doubt, I will be periodically monitoring the comment box, so you can put the doubts there. Okay, so let us go ahead with the discussion. So here comes the information security policy. Again, this this is a concept, or what you can say a methodology that is followed. So security policy, okay, that is inevitable. Now we have seen what is information, then information security. Now we are dealing with the security policy. So when we say security policy, the information security is anyhow encompassed in the security policy, and as a context, as the context of this management of information security, this course, as well as this third chapter, this is ethics and security, we mainly deal with the information security. So the security principles which are applied in an organization, that take the form of security policy. So maybe when you open an account to a particular site, and they ask you to create a password. So what happens when you create a password, maybe ABCD 1234 kind of thing. So if the site is not much critical, or kind of maybe no, it is not mission critical, money is not involved, they might allow such kind of very simple password. But the moment you are dealing with the banking site or the finance institution, commercial sites, so they have very strict security policy. For example, you will have to use one special character, this much length of password, then at least one small, one capital, one number, kind of thing. So this combination you will have to use. Why they are using this thing? So to avoid any kind of password leakage, shoulder surfing, because these passwords are difficult to guess in case of shoulder surfing is there. But there are methods to what you can say can get an hold to such password also. But let it be. So as far as from user side, how we can make this thing stricter. Then the password need to be changed in certain what you can say period of time, maybe in 30 days, 90 days, 180 days kind of thing. Then when you change the password, you cannot have password which was at least two last password, that password cannot be repeated, or no password cannot be repeated. So these are the policies. Then when you enter any wrong password for banking institution, they will allow you maximum three attempts kind of thing. And in case the password is wrongly entered, you will get email or SMS alert. So all these things, they are part of the security policy, and banking systems have evolved. I've been using this thing this online banking for last 15 to 20 years since my professional career started. And the way the policies were there, which dealt with the credit cards, debit card, then bank account, online logging, online activities. Now these mobile applications have come. So these security policies have matured over time. Yes, so as to provide the users with mission critical security for their banking or any applications. So yes, these policies guide the organization decision around procuring cyber security tools, also mandate employee behavior and responsibility. Okay, so here, as I told that one password policy, I took the example. But what firewall you should purchase, hardware firewall, software firewall, how you should update that, what kind of training. There are security, what you can say, frameworks and security audits are there. Okay, and these audits will be there in if the organization is dealing with the mission critical data or the customer data related to money or finance, then they have to accredit themselves with the security audits. So people have to be trained according to that. They have to follow the guidelines. Even when you code certain software which are financially related, they have to be following certain coding guidelines also. So all these things come under. And it is not that only your organization is following the security policy. All the stakeholders which are there, they have to follow the security policy. Okay. So, what this security policy should include? This is just I will say that subset of this overall domain of information security. Just to give an example, we are discussing this thing, but there are lots and lots of aspects to this security policy. Okay, so what do you should have a security policy? Okay, it should at least state the purpose and overall objective, and it will define the key term, because now this key term, when policy is there, it has to be shared with the stakeholders. And stakeholders may be your customers, maybe your vendors. They may not be interacting you daily, but they are doing business with you. So if you want to let them know some security measures we are implementing, then the keyword and key terms must be defined with them, so that when they read the security policy, they should make sense. They should be making sense out of that. Okay. One example component of the security policy is the access control policy. It is nowadays, now when I was going through this cloud training, specifically I'm going through this Amazon Cloud Foundation course, and there for these resources like secure this simple storage service or the object storage service, object store, they have this access control list, ACL, and you can define the ACL. So what is this access control list? It will specify what, so what you can say, which users should get access to what resource, or what resource should be allowed to what kind of users, whether it should be publicly allowed or not, whether it should be publicly accessible or not. Okay, and how this data should be made available to the users, and number of things are there. So just an example that access control policy, who can access what, and you can see that one such implementation in the cloud-based resources, because now cloud is a multi-tenant environment. So multiple what you can say customers, they are accessing the common virtual environment, and maybe this is not common virtual environment, but that might be housed on the common hardware platform, and so that we have to deal with the security risks there. Then password policy, I just gave you an example when we were discussing what typical banking applications or banking site password policy we discussed. So yes, how to set the password, how to update password, and all the things. Then data support and operation plan, to ensure that data is always available to this, how to back up the data, where to back up the data, whether to encrypt data or not, in number of operations which are required to make the data available. In case the data is theft, stolen, so if you are encrypting the data, it becomes difficult to get the data or to get access of that data, even if the data is in the hand of third party, unless and until you have this private and public key, you cannot decrypt the data. So, and the employees which are dealing with this security, what you can say, operations, as well as dealing with the data, they should have their roles and which should be defined, and accordingly the access should be granted to particular employee only. Okay, so this what roles and regular responsibilities will be there, what will be the hierarchy, what will be the reporting mechanism, what will be the access mechanism, all these things come. So this is the important and critical part of the security policy. And then the information security measures, so what measures we can take to make the premises secure, make the data and information secure. So you can go with the technical measure including software and hardware, what you can say, entities which deal with your data and strengthen the security. Then organizational measures, creation of internal unit which will look after the security aspect. They will make the policies and implement and enforce the policies. So it is kind of management stuff. Okay, then human measures. So train the people, provide them with the what you can say knowledge about the threats and how you can avoid the threat, discipline their work, what you can say, environment as well as work practices, physical measure to safeguard your location. I discussed that the data center location, they are always they are even not known to the people who are working in company. Only the people who are concerned or directly dealing with the resource only know the data center location, because these are the mission critical deployment. So they are highly they. So this is the one of the policy that physical measures are there. Beyond that, operational and human measures are also implemented. So with this, let us move ahead for the this threat, vulnerability, and risk related discussion. Okay, so give me a minute. Yeah. So I can see almost all students have marked their attendance. In case some students, if you uh, have network connectivity issues or issues related to the what you can say streaming of this live lecture, then I will suggest that you can visit, you can save this channel and visit the offline, I mean not offline actually, when you are actually having proper connection, you can download the lectures which are available on this channel on your YouTube application and you can watch. Okay, there is a facility on YouTube application where you can download the videos. Okay, so let us go ahead with this next discussion of the security risk and threats and vulnerability. Yeah. So now this chapter, this discussion is very important as far as the university examinations are considered, where this kind of things which are formalized. So you already know what is a threat, vulnerability, risk, and then maybe the components which are uh, responsible for the for this threat to be manifested. So here we are formalizing this thing. These are the definitions. So what is a threat? It is a potential cause of an incident that may result in harm to a system or organization. Now whatever threat, vulnerability and risk and all the other terminology that we are discussing here, they are in context of management of information systems. Okay, then the next is the vulnerability. Vulnerability manifested, it manifests, it is there. Now what happens, a weakness of an asset or a group of asset that can be exploited by one or more threats. So for example, either in initial deployment a vulnerability might not be there, but as the resource is in use or in what you can say public access, the vulnerability may manifest or emerge, and then it will cause the what you can say risk and eventually threat and eventually potential risk for the organization. For example, initially when you suppose purchase a laptop and then you purchase the license for the operating system, yeah, it is working, it is quite secure. Maybe you are having antivirus system deployed there, fine. But maybe the operating system vendor releases some patch which might be purely what you can say tested or poorly tested, or I will say that there are some vulnerability which are actually they are what you can say discovered by the people after the thorough testing, or maybe under certain maybe some dependency of that what you can say overall. set of application is discovered, and it will generate the vulnerabilities. What happens after 1 year of your use of your hardware as well as operating system? You come to know, or there happens to be a vulnerability. So it is now manifested. It was not initially there in your OS, but later on, because of some patching, some software, some update, or some kind of new software installation, you have that vulnerability in place. Or it might be there since beginning, but because of certain situation or certain testing, this vulnerability is discovered. So yes, vulnerability might be there since the what you can say creation of some software or hardware entity, or it might be manifesting after the use of that thing. Okay, and then the third important concept is the risk. So what is the risk? It is the potential for loss or damage or destruction of an asset as a result of threat exploiting the vulnerability. It's very important. This actually this links the threat, vulnerability, and risk together. So risk will be emerging from threat exploiting vulnerability. For example, suppose I am a hacker. I'm a hacker, so I am a threat. And currently, I cannot do anything to your organization, but I am looking at your organization and I am trying to intrude your organization. So I will be always looking for certain backdoor, certain entry points, certain open ports, certain vulnerability in your organization's servers or network. The moment I find that your organization has not patched with the certain network, what you can say weakness or a certain network security flaw which was released, and you have your network administrator or maybe your desktop admin, they have not patched the thing. Then you are having vulnerability which is because of the network or software flaw. And now I am a threat, I am a hacker, I want to intrude your system, I have this vulnerability in view of me, and now I am going to use that vulnerability to get the access to your organization resources. And then what I will be doing, that will be the risk for you. Maybe I can damage some data. Now in last lecture we discussed the case study for this Canon incorporation, where some maze group, they hackers group, they encrypted almost 10 terabytes of data of this Canon, and now they were asking the ransom for that. So now this has become the risk to the Canon incorporation. Okay, so these are very important definitions, my students. So please remember these definitions. Maybe in the exams they will be asking. In the full of days we'll be having one online quiz also, assignment also. There you will have to. So I will be remember this and produce this definition. I will be sharing this PPT with you. Already these PPTs are there on my website. I will share that link with you so that you can take these educational resources for your study. Okay, so this I gave one example of this vulnerability risk and threat. Maybe one example is there on the screen. And threat agent is that the entities that will knowingly seek to manifest a threat, knowingly as well as unknowingly. So here I am a threat agent, which I am doing knowingly. But suppose some network admission or other network, what you can say testing. Maybe you, if you have two departments and if you are doing some kind of penetration testing, and if they are unaware of the one security patch which is not in place in other department or maybe in other application, if they access that is unknowingly threat agent. But yes, threat agents which, like I said that I am a hacker, then I have become the threat agent which is going to exploit your vulnerability and pose a risk to you. So yes, very important thing. Yeah. So who is the enemy and what they do? These are the offenders which are, what you can say, uh, I'll say that these are the threat agents which are going to look for the access to your resources. And when we say resources, these are resources coming in the purview of management of information system, hence the information system resources. So crackers, hackers. So hackers are quite professionals, they are information security criminals. The crackers, they are teenagers or the neophytes. They are maybe testing their knowledge and their skills and capabilities for certain some kind of practice or the study or intellectual challenges. And information system criminals, these are the hackers. or the ransom is people who keep the data for ransom, or they get the access for personal as well as for professional benefit. So espionage, they do espionage, they steal information and share it. Maybe one nation doing espionage or other. That is also. Then fraudsters, they access your banking credential and maybe have unauthorized access to your financial resources, abuse, maybe stealing your personal data and leaking the data. So, excuse me, yeah, posing, accessing your resources and exploiting your resources. Then vandals, so they are just using their knowledge for destructive objectives. So rather than personal gain or professional gain, they will just cause loss of information, loss of data to you, and they will derive the sadistic pleasure into that. So these are the vandals. Yeah. So some of the motives of cyber criminals: power assurance. They want to, what I can say, show the world that I can do this thing. Power assertive. They are higher aggressive people, which will emphasize that yes, I am the powerful. I can control your resources. I can harm you, kind of thing. Anger. If some people, they are not happy with your organization or they have left your organization, they may be angry with some of the policy, so they can create harm. Sadistic people, they just derive the enjoyment when others suffer. Okay, others suffer. Then profit oriented people, like we saw this hackers group. We saw this hackers group which was what you can say, working with this maze kind of thing, and then they stole 10 terabytes of data of this canon. So they actually now keeping this data with them and threatening to leak that data, otherwise they're asking the ransom. So profit oriented people. Yeah. So now we have discussed this definitions of these threats, then risk, then vulnerability, then uh, we just saw with the what you can say definition of risk, definition of threat and vulnerability, how they are interlinked. Now this is one diagram, very good diagram you can see here, which actually describes the how threats multiply with vulnerability to pose potential risk. Very good diagram. So it is actually summarizing what are various threats, what are various threats. So anger employee, dishonest employee, criminals, government, one government spying on other, then terrorists, cyber terrorists, activists, hackers are there, hacktivists are there. These are the people with good motive but using bad, what you can say, avenues or these tools to access the information. Then even nature, because of some, what you can say, natural calamity, so your data center security is lapsing and it is giving access to your resources. It is a natural cause, maybe because of the flood, tsunami, or earthquake. Yeah. So then competitors, espionage people who actually they are the threats, and they will be always looking at your organization. They are looking at your organization to intrude, and they will be using the vulnerability to include your organization. So software bug, broken processes, ineffective control. Now we are going to study this software and security control in this lecture. Next lecture, that is the last lecture. Then hardware flaws. Hardware flaws are also quite, what you can say, exploited flaws. It is, don't think that you are IT engineers and only softwares to have flaws. Software and they only can grant access to the resources. But hardware flaws are also there. Some no CPU which is poorly designed and executing instructions poorly, maybe buffer overflow or kind of thing. We do not they are if they are not handled properly. Older CPUs, you can go through the case study and maybe generate one also where how these hardware flaws are exploited to gain the access. Okay, generally buffer overflow is one of the favorite hardware flaw, software as well as hardware flaw of the hackers. Then business change, you are not having thorough business knowledge, and because of that thing, what you can say, some vulnerabilities are exposed. Legacy systems, another thing, people are very much, what you can say, in love with their resources which are quite old. So if in software, in MIS context, if you are using the legacy system not because of love but because of certain technical, what you can say, reasons, what will happen is that they will be generating the threat for you, because legacy system are hardly updated. Okay, the kind, because this is old. For example, still some organizations, some banking system, they might be using mainframes because their old deployments are there and old records are there. And now, though majority of the records are on client server based system, maybe on cloud based, on premise, or as well as on third party domains, but certain critical data is on mainframes because of some reasons that bank want to maintain that data. So these mainframes, if you are not properly guarding them, not properly patching them, these are the legacy systems and they will definitely pose the threat. Then inadequate business process control and business communication. So that is another, what you can say, threat, and human errors. People inadvertently exposing the key security information of your organization, and this will bring the risk, possible consequences to your business. So business disruption, financial losses, loss of privacy, then damage to reputation, loss of confidence, legal penalties. Like now, Facebook. Yeah, yesterday only I this news that Google had to pay some $750 million to US best Google user, Google Plus users, whose whose personal information was leaked because of certain software flaws. So now legal as well as financial loss is there, and the users are having loss of privacy, then impaired growth and loss of life. And under certain situation, yes, loss of life might be there, because if there is a nuclear plant and if it is accessed by the hackers and if they manipulate the thing, it can cause explosion and loss of life also. Same modus operandi was followed while the Stuxnet virus was designed and deployed on actual networks. So you can go through the case studies. Okay, so very important thing, all of you are future software engineers. So the security, what you can say, consideration should be at topmost priority, because your business will grow because of your idea, but business will stay in business because of the security. If you don't secure your business, within some time you are going to be in the ashes. Okay, remember my words. So security is the foremost, what I can say, principle as far as our software engineering life is considered. Not life cycle, life, throughout the life you have to look at this aspect as a critical aspect. Okay, so my friends, this is one of the important discussions we did, and now we'll continue with the next part. But before going to next part, I request to request you people to work for the case study. As I told you, now you can go miss refer this slide also, which I just discussed, and how you can relate this situation with the case study. That can be a very good, what can I say, concluding part or the essence of your case study. So when anyone wants to go through your case study and how, so for example, Canon case study, what caused the intrusion, which vulnerability the hackers exploited. Sometimes the data might be public, sometimes the data might not be public, but you have to do certain research on that. And once you go to that, put in this, what you can say, format, and that will generate the knowledge how we can prevent certain situation like this in the future. That should be the objective when you prepare the case study. So that's why remember this thing. Maybe I will you can request the PPT, uh, or otherwise it is available on my website also. Okay, so let us go ahead. Yeah. So this is another depiction. Here you can see for a particular organization. So some threats, vulnerability, and the eventual potential risk are there, and further solutions are also mentioned. So we'll not discuss all, but yes, system failure or overrating in the server room. This is a threat, but this is coming because of air conditioned system is the 10-year old. So this situation is present in my organization. So to address this thing, I have the solution here. Buy new air condition, and this will cost me $3,000 if you are in India. So maybe a new air condition will cost you around 50,000 rupees to 1 lakh rupees. Good, because I am talking about the professional grade air conditioner, and maybe split air conditioner or kind of thing. Or further, you can add the firefighting equipment to this also. So it may go to this cost maybe go to 1 lakh rupees. Now, but if you don't address this issue, what will happen? So what will happen? Assets and consequences. Servers and all service will be unavailable for at least 3 years, and if they are burnt, then unless until new systems arrive, they will not be available. So first, air condition not functioning will cause the overheating. It will cause system failures, and it will cause the services to halt. And this halt will result into the loss of revenue, potential loss of the $50,000 per occurrence, maybe 5 lakh rupees per occurrence. This can be a loss, and you can just simply prevent this loss by spending another 1 lakh rupees on that thing. So, vulnerability if the AC is old or malfunctioning, it is causing threat of possible threat that system may overheat and result into the failure. And if it actually this situation actually manifests, then system will be unavailable for at least 3 years, and you will have actual loss here. So this is an example of what you can say threat. Not only means this is now total internal, what you can say all situations internal. Nobody is stealing anything from you or destroying anything for you. You are only causing what you can say self destruction kind of situation, and this comes in the high risk. Other is moderate risk. Firewall configuration, what you can say it is the situation where it is not properly configured for good DDoS mitigation, distributed denial of service attack, and your firewall is not properly configured for that. So what may happen? Your system may come under the DDoS attack, and it will result in your website not available for certain time unless until you review or filter this address range, and it may cost you what you can say another loss. What is the solution? Properly moderate and configure the files. The moderate, low and very low. What can I say? The threat data. So this is the kind of threat analysis and mitigation. This is also similar to the threat matrix. We'll discuss this concept later on. So now types of damage that this risk will cause: interruption of service, interception of your communication, modification or the modification of your resources, or unauthorized access of your resources, leakage of your resources, maybe leakage of data, or what you can say your information. Then fabrication, unauthorized party can modify your data, and they can sell that what you can say maybe some product or data, telling that this is our own data, some with some modification. So yes, here some of the this components of threat will go through quite what you can say. It is a swift manner. So threat, what are the component of threat? Threat agents, so criminal, terrorists, who are looking at your organization to exploit that, exploit the vulnerability to gain the access for personal or commercial use, or just for the sadistic or the vandalism purpose. Then capabilities they have: software technology, facilities, education, training methods, maybe their own or some of the loopholes of your organization. Then threat inhibitors. Now your policy is one of the threat inhibitors. Then fear of capture, fear of failures. Then if you are, that's why I said your policy are so strong that it will inhibit the threat, and they will secure your system. The cost of participation, sensitive to public perception, law and enforcement activity, all this means this cybersecurity laws CSL, they actually inhibit the agent to be actually in act. But now because of this global network access, maybe your country people they may be inhibited, but other like these espionage people or your enemy country can always have access to your, or they can always be the threat agents. Then threat amplifiers, these may be internal or external or physical resources which will amplify the threat. So peer pressure, then some laws, some flaws, some loopholes, okay, some what you can say vulnerabilities which are left intentionally or unintentionally. So they will just amplify the, they will increase the probability that the risk will manifest. And threat catalyst like the amplifier, but they are not directly threats, or they are not directly on their own vulnerability, but they will enable what you can say the threat or the vulnerability to manifest into the risk, okay, to event technology. For example, in your company you are having some visit of some people who are just coming for sites. So technically, these people are not direct threat, and even the sightseeing event is also not direct threat. But some hacker can be part of these people, and they can complete their motive of getting the resources, maybe through hardware access or software access, kind of thing. Or a bank premises not properly monitored, CCTV not functioning. It is a threat catalyst. Okay, the threat agent motivators like political, secular, personal gains, religion, power, terrorism, curiosity, these are all threat agent motivators. These are all components of threat. There can be a question, explain the components of threat, and maybe give example of at least three of them, like this thing. So yes, these agents can be natural, unintentional, intentional, foreign agents, kind of things. Maybe person, maybe industry, maybe group of hackers. They are the threat agent. So this I will not go in details, but top 10 database security threats. Then top 10 web threats. I will share this thing as your notes. Then major security threats for the information system, hacking, viruses, bombs, spoofing. We discussed this thing in the first lecture of this chapter. So vulnerability, what are these things? These are some weakness of the system that could allow security to be compromised. We have seen threats, physical vulnerabilities, natural ones, hardware and software, media vulnerability, then stolen, damaged disk or tape kind of this media. Then even poorly secured websites can be this thing. Then emanation vulnerability due to the radiation, because this will what you can say pose the health risk to the people who are guarding, and maybe they will be allowing the security lapses, and access to the critical resources can be there. Then communication vulnerabilities, you might be wrongly depicting the security policy in your policy book, and that will result in only improper training, improper sharing of resources, and they will cause the specific resource to come under the vulnerability. And human ones, maybe human not trained, or human with improper what you can say knowledge, improper what you can say capabilities, and malicious intent to access your resources. So how they do manifest through external misuse, hardware misuse, masquerading, masquerading, then pest programs, bypassing the security measures, active misuse and passive. Active misuse means upfront you will be attacking the thing. Passive misuse, people using your what you can say, for example, bank employees browsing some porn sites, or bank employees improperly opening their emails containing the virus or trojans, and they will what you can say allow the hackers to gain access to the banking resources. So actively means that a banking employee causing what you can say so creating creation of backdoor with knowledge, with intention. Passively means they might be what you can say acting as a mule to carry some bugs or threats or trojans or viruses. Yeah. So we have thoroughly discussed this thing. So let us go ahead. Yeah. So what I will do, I will just complete this thing, risk management framework. we'll continue for another 5 to 7 minutes, and then this risk management concept will clear. So last topic that will remain, that is the security control. So that I will take either tomorrow or today evening. I will release one lecture. So let us see, as time permits, we will see that. Yes, let us go ahead. So now, after we have discussed this risk assessment, risk, and then threats and the vulnerability, here comes the important topic. This is also an exam question. That is the risk management, steps in risk management, and framework for risk management. Okay. So to manage the risk, first of all, we have to assess the risk. Risk is the potential that a given threat will be exploit the vulnerabilities of an asset or group of asset, and thereby result they will be resulting, or they can cause the harm to the organization or the resources or a particular person. So that's why risk equal to vulnerability multiplied by the threats. So this is the definition, important definition of risk. Okay. Then risk management. Here we identify, control, and minimize or eliminate the security risk. We follow the process and what you can say protocol for that, and it will have the what you can say uh, resources, then procedures, then protocols working in place. And risk assessment is that locate the risk, where are the possible loopholes or flaws. So yes, so risk management consists of what you can say two aspects. One is risk assessment and risk control. Identify the risks, what are the risk drivers, assumption, and find the detailed what you can say uh, origin of the specific risk factors. Then analyze that what is the impact, what are the modes, how it can cause the risk. Then prioritize that, at like AC is a problem, and at the same time there is some firewall monitoring is a lapse. So low risk and high risk, where the monetary damage is there, where the what you can say personal damage is there. We have to put the or categorize the risk into low, high, medium, or no risk kind of thing. And then control. So what you can say, patch the system, upgrade the hardware, repair this hardware, upgrade the software, and have the risk mitigated, and continue with the cycle. So here the threat matrix depicts the what you can say overall this risk, threat, and vulnerability scenario. So here I will show you directly. So what you can say here, you can see various verticals are there for the risk factors. Here you can say threat agents. Various threat agents are mentioned, and these threat agents, what risk verticals they are here: legal, energy, healthcare, telecom. And for these verticals, what are the risk rating which are mentioned here? So risk capability, and then potential impact. So here you can say term 2, term 3, or category low, medium, or high, or extreme danger kind of catastrophic impact is there. Then moderate, then what you can say regular or negligible impact. Okay, so this is called as the threat matrix for your organization, for various what you can say vulnerabilities or uh, threats. You will have to prepare this threat matrix. So this is the what you can say correlation between verticals, then threat agents and vulnerabilities, and overall how they are going to impact your organization along with the category of impact, or what you can say grade of the impact. That is the summary. So this is very good example. Similar what you can say threat matrix you will have to prepare. One such threat matrix or simpler one can be seen here. Is also threat matrix, very easy to understand, and what you can see it is also giving solution also. This is another example of threat matrix. Very good example of threat matrix. So this threat matrix will summarize and give you direction how to what are the risks, what are their impacts, and how we should proceed with mitigating the risk or managing the risk. So it is this risk management has got five, you can say here five steps. The assessment, then establish the central management focus, then implement appropriate policies and measure, promote awareness, and monitor and evaluate policy for continuous improvement and effectiveness. So here this is another one where this one very good diagram I got from internet. So where it says that now risk management framework has six steps. That is the category, then select the security control, categorize the information system, then implement security control, and then assess risk assessment, assessment of security control, define a policy for authorized information system, and monitor for continuous improvement. So initiate, design, implement, operate, and what you can say monitor, and modify, dispose, and continue with this cycle. So here, this mainly in the exam you will be writing this five steps. That is the assessment, establish central management force, implement appropriate policies, promote awareness, and monitor and evaluate policy, and continuous improvement. So this is another one. And what is the need to excel in the enterprise risk management? So uh, what components you are, what you can say, you should be mastering with, what you will need, how you are going to handle this thing. So you need to understand the deep, what you can say, process knowledge of the business, deep level process knowledge of the business, deep understanding of the business processes. Then what are different models which are there part of your business process and tools which you are using. Then you should be monitoring the logs and then the statistics of the business communication or the network and other security related aspects, and that report generation and report monitoring should be there. And ability to lead and communicate across various teams. You will have network team, you will have software team, you will have what you can say training team, and all these teams you should be working with to have proper enterprise risk management framework in place, and confidence to challenge and ask difficult questions related to overall process and excel further. So yes, concludingly, in this lecture, we have seen what are the threats, vulnerability, and risk, their definition, their interconnection, then what are various threat agents we have seen, what kind of damages are possible we have discussed in earlier lecture, as well as consequences and impact we have discussed in this lecture, then risk management framework and how risk management will be done we have discussed, then vulnerabilities and types of threats also we have discussed today. So I conclude here. Okay, in the next lecture we'll be dealing with the security controls of this software information security and management of information system. So if you have any doubt, you can put in this comment box. Otherwise, I thank all of you for your time and attending this lecture. Have a good day. Bye.